Okay, what's going on? We back at it again. So, I have to get back on the topic of the Africans and the indigenous Americans and where they were dispersed to and what they consist of today post Civil War and Jim Crow. So, we have the descendants of the slaves and we have the descendants of the Trail of Tears. We're going to discern the two because both of them got something different coming. We have the black African Americans who believe they have reparations coming back because they were brought over here as slaves, as black African sub-Saharan Bantu. So, who is black in America? Ethnic tensions flare up between black Americans and black immigrants. So we have a story about Harriet Tubman. They was doing the cast, and they went and casted a British Nigerian actress named Cynthia Erivo. Now this is a story way back, but I'm bringing it to light to show you what's going on in the African American community. Because like I say, that is different than the Trail of Tears community. The Trail of Tears community is indigenous Americans who was forced on the Trail of Tears, or they was denationalized and called colored folk. I don't know if you ever heard of colored folk, but that's what they call our people down in the South. Then you have these other groups who came up with their own group called Black Power and Black African. So we have black Americans sitting up there arguing with black Africans who supposed to be their cousins from Africa, from Nigeria, getting mad at them for playing Harriet Tubman in the movie. And Harriet Tubman is supposed to be an African slave. See, the Africans is not even getting along. So that's why I'm sitting up there letting you know that these descendants of the Trail of Tears is different from these people. Now, you see her little brown skin and her little features. You sitting up there thinking everybody black. This woman is not black. This woman is brown. And she is from Britain and Nigeria. They have a close relationship. Okay? So, we got the black immigrants coming over here benefiting off the black Americans. So, to me, that is dangerous for the brown skinned people, called colored folks and indigenous Americans and other nationalities and indigenous recognitions, and tribal identities. So, this brown skin, this melanin is getting us in trouble because the black Americans so the black Americans is illegal immigrants because they came as stowaways and slaves on the ship. And the ship came over here and dropped them off. So they come from another country and they never ever checked in with us, the Trail of Tears. Or maybe they did check in with us and they split them up from us. So we got to check on that. We probably can check on that in this video. Okay? So let's move on because we got the black Africans and the black Americans fighting over who gonna get what in America. Then you got the descendants of the Trail of Tears. So let's find out who the descendants of the Africans was and who the descendants of the Trail of Tears and the slaves. Let's see what the slaves talking about. Okay. Make it right. Descendants of slaves demand restitution from Georgetown. So the slaves, we don't even know if these African slaves, let's see if it says something about African before I even read it. Because these could be indigenous folks getting their slave too, so this story ain't worth it. This is a waste of time before I go in on the African. Let me just get right to the descendants of the Trail of Tears. And we going to say Negro. We ain't going to say, because they'll throw the white Indian up there on us. Negro descendants of Trail of Tears. See, we not gonna tell the mestizo story. We not gonna tell the mestizo story. We gonna tell my story, and we not gonna tell the mulatto story or the mongoloid story. That is off limits over here. Everything is nigga over here. And Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia is nigga, and we ain't letting nobody, tell us nothing different. Now, they gonna keep showing you all these reservation niggas, and all that stuff. I mean, them Indians, Native Americans. But what I'm telling you is it's all a lie. It ain't nothing but nigga day down here in the South. I don't know if you ever been in the South. That's on you. That's on you for not being down here. But one thing for sure, you not gonna tell me nothing about it if you not from down here. So you got all these niggas talking about they African, you know who been on the YouTube or the TV shows and the news. They gonna have to show us directly from where in Africa. It ain't just, you from Africa. I don't want to hear that. So that's why we have the Trail of Tears story, and we also have the Transatlantic Slave Africans. So we gonna start telling our story, the DOTs, and let the DOSs tell their story. So we have an old picture right here that's finna nip it in the bud, and this say Smithsonian.com. So this gonna nip it in the bud. I don't have to really get to reading the gang of stuff when we have a picture from the Smithsonian. You see the white cowboys, or the white whatever they is, European, they walking our people. You don't see no Mongoloids. Because if these was Mongoloid slaves, you feel me, what they would be doing is walking with the Mongoloids. The Mongoloids would be telling them to carry they bags, because you was our slaves. You understand what I'm saying? So the story is mythological, and plus I'm a descendant of the Trail of Tears people, and a victim of the occupation and the mistreatment of my people during the Reconstruction era. I am a direct descendant of that, and I'm sitting up here telling my story, hoping that people will catch on and help us. We is asking for help from different nations around the world and from people in America who think they so rich and balling, and you neglecting this story right here. This is our story. So they talking about slave traders sold to the Tennessee or whatever, and all these stupid stories, but I'm just giving you an example of how they show portraits of us walking with our children. So you see, it looked like it's damn near cold outside. And they got the children walking. They got horses, but they gonna make us walk, so they hated us. So I don't really feel the need to read from this story, because you get the picture. You know what I'm saying? They got they gonna call it a migration. America's forgotten migration. The journey of 1 million. So African Americans from the tobacco south to the cotton south. So they calling them African Americans, but we know these is the descendants of the Trail of Tears. So they keeping it real. You feel what I'm saying? So they keeping it real. This is the Smithsonian. This is top source. So what I'm saying is, you got to listen to the way I'm telling the story. What I'm saying is, we ain't no African slaves. We got duped out of our land. We always had the farmland. But a mighty empire who was getting, raided upon. You got to understand, it was a mighty industry already in America. You know what I'm saying? Doing a thing, and they getting mollywopped right now. You feel me? They getting took out. So we got the Seminole Trail of Tears. We got the Trail of Tears all throughout the South. So don't get it twisted and just think it's just one group of people. Like I say, the Indian Removal Act was anybody who didn't become Christian. If you didn't become Christian, you was up out of there. And that go to show you the resilience of our people, keeping they indigenous customs, and didn't want to sell out to the European customs. The Seminole, like their 5 civilized tribes brethren. So if the Seminole was Muslim, right? I done showed you in previous videos, and other groups, united to go against these people. And they're telling you the 5 civilized tribes is their brethren. But the 5 civilized tribes is people who had different concepts in different areas. But they were their family, just like you niggas in Oklahoma is our family, or Texas is our family, or Detroit is our family. We all feel like we family in America. They family, but they got a different belief. You understand what I'm saying? So, just like their brother, they were victims of a calculated purge of Native Americans throughout the United States in the 19th century. So it was a calculated purge. Just like they calculating gentrification in our communities right now, but y'all sleep. But I'm coming to y'all in the form of light, trying to wake y'all up so y'all can see, so y'all can stop, following these money hungry fat cats who trying to get paid, instead of so we can have complete dominion over our land that was inherited through birthright to us. You understand what I'm saying? So read that right there and remember what I showed you in previous videos about the Seminole. Don't get it twisted. They honor their Negro roots, but we know law-wise we can't call ourselves Negro. We can't call ourselves black, colored, none of those terms. We got to be strictly what our nation is and represent that. Or we can be deemed imposters or illiterates. So y'all the ones who think y'all Negro, black, and colored. You know what I'm saying? Y'all the ones who thinking that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to show you the Southern heritage. And a lot of these people is denationalized right now. Some of these people still live on reservations. Some of these people is traveling amongst us every day. You don't know it. You know, and you living in your own world for some reason. And all I can do is tell you about, you know, the work we put in. You see, our people building, you know, and we old. You know, that's why they not doing us wrong, because they know that we put in work to build. But, you know, a lot of y'all people is brain dead. So, this is just sad to see sometimes when you got to go through this, when you got to go through it and really realize it was your people that was duped and continue to get duped. And that's why I do this, to hopefully get enough following, you know, to be able to get on a larger stage and be the voice that ones need. Because, you know, I know it hurt to lose and keep losing. And you're going to continue to keep losing if you don't stand up for the right, you know, to be recognized as a free man. So look at all these lands. You know, down here in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, all this is historically ours. Ain't nobody supposed to be down here directing nothing. They here as some type of war party, you know, posing as a war party, protecting some threat, all the while stealing the oil up out the Gulf. Stealing the oil up out the Gulf. And they got, you know, our people out here confused. They look like this. You know, the true Indian, the true indigenous American, and they got folks like this calling themselves Africans. You know, so it's common sense these ain't no Africans. You know, and that's why I'm discerning the difference between the descendants of Trail of Tears and the descendants of the Transatlantic Slave Trade. So, massacre of the whites by Indians and blacks in Florida. So, let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Okay, from 1733, Creek land secessions, they've been taking our land. So, like, I'd say about 200 years ago, we was balling. This is Fort Gaston, historic site. Apalachicola, this is in Florida, right up under Georgia, this forest. As soon as you get like by, you know, east of Panama, by Tampa Bay, and, you know, Cocoa, Florida, all that is nigga. It's thick niggas down there. It's a lot of niggas, but it's still a lot of white supremacy. They whining because of the meth and the sun. That sun is like South Africa, I ain't gonna lie. This shit is unbearable down there. They really playing fucking games being down there. Them Europeans, whatever they call rednecks. They thick down there, and they, you know, militarily, militia-wise, they got to hold their post against the Negro uprisings, what they want to call it. You know, civilization down there balling, but, you know, that shit so hot, them Europeans naturally ain't even supposed to be down there. But at the same time, they don't want to let the Latin culture take it over again, the so-called Spanish. So, you know, they got to do what they got to do to hold on to Florida. But what I'm telling you, it ain't nothing but niggas down here, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, they call it the Black Belt. Let's look it up. The Black Belt. So, before I get to the, what you call it? Before I get to the African part of who they really is and what they represent and separating them. So as you can see, the Black Belt is a region of the southern United States. The term originally described the prairies and dark fertile soil of central Alabama. So our ancestors knew that it was lovely down here. And this is our indigenous homelands. And you see the Mississippi down by Louisiana. all the way up to Illinois. So you can just imagine that we've been here balling way before these other folks who hating on us. Coming over here talking about we some Africans. And that's why I do this, man, to inform you. And this where I'm at, and we got a lot at stake down here. Now, it's a lot of wealthy, rich Negroes down here. And there's a lot of leeching Africans and other nationalities down here. But what we need is unity down here. Why they attacking us, why they distracting us and attacking us. And this is the chance, because you got somebody who wants to lead in that sector. You got somebody who wants to actually speak up about this situation in the South and in Chicago, because it's all interconnected. So this is our chance, to claim a lost legacy instead of sitting up there letting them Africans and, the Masonic groups distract us so they can get their little money. One thing I understand, you got to get your money. I would love to see people become successful every day. Get your money, take care of your family. Respect the literature and work of any, aspiring, historian and information specialist. But the bigger picture is we got to do something, and we got to do something quick to make sure that we ain't paying taxes on our own land and that we the one charging rent. That's a topic that cannot be dodged. It must be brought up. At the end of the day, there got to be some leadership. And we have a whole agency designed to make sure you and I never claim this, because they have this terminology called Negro, Black, and Color. So, you tracing your genealogy, knowing that you connected to people like this who own their land, quickly will get us back in these Freeman towns where we can direct commerce from the Freeman towns instead of these big cities not designed for us. But, ain't nothing but, citizenships to get you up under laws from foreigners. So let's look up how many Freeman towns left okay, it say it's only 9 right here. Let's see if they telling the truth. Okay, this ain't nothing but a blog. I don't want to read from there. Freeman Press Reader. Okay, I got some on that, so I can go on and get to that, cause they ain't gonna tell me what I really want to hear right quick. Okay, we got Fort Mose, the first Emancipation Proclamation, people fighting for their freedom, founded in 1738, north of St. Augustine, where the Moor Christian de Luna founded a Moorish colony in St. Augustine. So I can imagine these people was connected to Moors, and they just calling them Africans. We have the Rosewood Massacre that won't be forgotten, that they would love us to forget in 1915. People was murdered. We have the Seneca Village in New York, where our people was at. 5 Point districts in Lower Manhattan. First free black settlement. It is, today we know it as Wall Street. So the actual Wall Street that we know today is situated on the first free black settlements. So that go to show you the psyche of white supremacy, having a Wall Street traded on your first free black settlement, making all the money off your land, and there's nothing you can do. Of course they gonna make all the money if you ain't putting heavy taxes on them. If you ain't putting no price on them. They just making free profit every day. Nobody's stopping them. And they only regulating. Greenwood, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street in the early 1900s. Indigenous Americans settled in Oklahoma seeking employment and other opportunities in the rich oil field. So they got the rich oil fields out here, and they wound up getting the oil. And of course they got bombed for their oil and taken out by white supremacy. It's no secret. These are things that should not cause controversy because it's true. Freeman Village, Virginia, the nation's safe haven. In 1863, the government built Freeman Village on the grounds of the Custis and Lee estates. There are about 51.5-story houses each of which was divided to accommodate 2 families. The settlement was home to some notable residents, including Sojourner Truth. Allensworth, California. In 1908, Lieutenant Colonel Allen Allensworth and 4 others set up the California Colony and Home Promoting Association with the mind set of establishing the state's first all-black township, located on the Santa Fe rail line. Okay, so we have a Negro, Colonel Allensworth, fighting, and he made sure California had a historic Negro town. We have Freedman, Texas, Houston, Little Harlem. At the end of the Civil War, thousands of free slaves purchased land and built their homes along the Buffalo Bayou, dubbing it Freedmen's Towns. In over 6 decades, the town thrived with churches, schools, stores, theaters, and jazz spots, lining the cobblestone roadways. By the 1920s, it was known as Little Harlem, but the Great Depression caused many to lose their homes. So, lining up what we got with what the Europeans got, and not what the law say we can do. When they have a Great Depression, we have a Great Depression. But when we built this with our own hands, how is we losing it if we built this shit with our own hands? You see how we getting duped all across the country out of these is freedmen towns, but a Great Depression got somehow allowed them to take it back from us. So wasn't shit free about that shit. So we have David Bend, Mississippi, a progressive slave town. David Bend was a former plantation owned by Joseph Davis, who created a more self-governing community among his slaves. Okay. We have Mushakanok, Iowa, the strikebreakers. 1875 to 1900, Mushakanok was home to one of the nation's largest coal mining firms, Consolidated Coal. In 1880, J.E. Buxton, superintendent at Consolidated, sent officials to recruit black laborers from Virginia and West Virginia. Black families settled into the town. By 1900, the coal mines were exhausted, and Consolidated started opening up new camps in Buxton, Iowa. So we see these Indians. One of them looked just like one of my cousins to the left. Straight Indian type. Mixed up all across the country. Now called mixed up African American. And it is a black man's town. New Philadelphia, a pioneer town in the frontier, founded in 1836, was among the first towns registered by an African American prior to the Civil War, Frank McWhorter. So he wasn't no slave, but they still gonna call him an African, a former Kentucky slave. And he bought some 42 acres in southwest Illinois before the Civil War. His town was a safe haven for Underground Railroad. But the Hannibal and Naples Railroad bypassed the town, and by the late 1880s, residents started leaving. Today, New Philadelphia is an open field. It was named a national landmark in 2009. Pen Oak Colony, Illinois, byproduct of the Northwest, with pictures. Established in 1818, this is probably not too far from Chicago. This small township spread across just 480 acres. It was organized under the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, an act that led to Western expansion and excluded slavery. So, in the Ordinance of 1787, they weren't supposed to mess with nothing west. And that's what eventually led to the War of 1812, because they came and disturbed these type of people. So if you can see, it's a difference between the descendants of slaves and the descendants of Trail of Tears. Because you got these colored folks who wind up getting moved up out of here too, just because of some Africans. And as I showed you when I first did the video, the Africans got the Nigerians they fighting with about movie roles over here. So you can understand all of the confusion and, of what's going on with mixing us up with them damn Africans. You see the little man to the right, I got, relatives who look like that. With the lips poked out. That is a typical Chicagoan. You will find these older types in Chicago. All 3 of these types. And we all consider ourselves family. We got Blackdom, New Mexico, the Black Ghost Town. Located south of Roswell, Blackdom, established by Frank and Ella Louise Boyer, was the first all-black settlement in New Mexico. The heyday for the town was around 1908, when there were about 300 residents. They had set up a post office, blacksmith, stores, a hotel, and Blackdom Baptist Church. So you have a town based on Blackdom. And if you see these Aboriginal types, You know, they the Asiatic type, but they consider themselves black. It ain't nothing wrong with that. Unless, you know, these are soldiers from a regiment and they took pictures and all of them not residents in the town, but they might be. These might be their brothers. Look at Buddy with the beard up top. You feel how different he look? You know, look at Buddy, the light-skinned Buddy up under him and the dark-skinned Buddy in the middle. You feel what I'm saying? These is different type of folks that they is now calling African. So I hope you enjoyed that little breakdown. You know what I'm saying? Because that was a lot of information that you don't get all the time with somebody just running it down for you. You know, doing a rundown. You know, sharing shit with you. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind at all. I don't mind at all. You know, breaking it down. Now, let's get to the Africans. We're going to find out exactly who the African slaves was. Because we got to get this information out before I continue with Who Built American video. And the rest on Diane Calloway and Sarah Sudan Seti, them aboriginals and them Africans. We're going to continue to break them down. You know, I'm going to continue to come at them. But we got to get vital information out so you can understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. So you won't think I'm just cloud chasing for views. I'm not addicted to views. I'm going to be known for giving you information that cannot be refuted. But no matter what somebody trying to sell y'all and tell y'all. In the long run, when you break down this information and research it and see where I'm coming from, you're going to be very thankful and reward me later. I'm quite sure you're going to be thankful. So as of right now, we're going to separate the descendants of the slaves from the Africa, and we're going to separate the descendants of the Trail of Tears, who was Mollywop, and continue to get preyed upon by banks, lenders, and other thirsty agencies who was taking advantage of our financial and legal illiteracy. So I'm here today as a spokesman for everybody from the Folk and People Nation, People and Folk Nation of Chicago and the Trail of Tears, and we can all start our own, you know, group chats and communities and link up as a nation, because I know we love each other. Niggas in Chicago down to the south, we got mad love for each other. You know, down to Tuskegee, Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, Florida, you know, all the way up to Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, all the way back up to Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota. Niggas love each other. And then we all we got. And now, instead of gangbanging, GDBD Vice Lord, People, Folks, and Nation, that's just what we is. And we just going to show each other love. And I got this information for us. So, we have African settlers. And Nova, first black settlers. Okay, let's read this story right here. So, you know, we might have to do another video on this. So, African Nova Scotian community, a look back. The history of African Nova Scotians reaches back to the early founding years of the province. See, a province is something that has to get registered. It ain't just nothing that somebody coming up with. That means you got some international ties. You know, you got more than some local ties. So that means you got some people on the outside to deal with. So many of today's community can trace their origins to centuries ago, when Nova Scotia held the promise of a better life for immigrants of African descent. Explorer Matthew DeCosta is credited with being the first to arrive as part of an expedition that founded Port Royal in 1605. In the 1700s, small population of French and English black settlers were part of a colonial towns such as Louisburg and early Halifax. So we have settlers, free Africans, and probably, you know, they gonna add the slaves after a little while. So the first large group of immigrants were the black loyalists, who became as refugees after American Revolution. So, we have the black loyalists who came as refugees to Nova Scotia. And as you can see, according to explorer Matthew DaCosta, is credited with founding these towns in the 1600s. So in the late 1700s, we have black loyalists who had already been in America, particularly the Ethiopia Regiment under Lord Dunmore in Virginia. So about 3,500 people settled throughout Nova Scotia in communities such as Annapolis, Royal, Clements, Granville, Birchtown, Brindleytown, Preston, Little, Tracity, Chittabucto, and Halifax. A group of 600 exiled Jamaican Maroons followed in 1796, settling in Preston Township. So that's why you have a lot of Jamaican activity going on in Canada. Now you know. So we finding out who the African slaves was, and the difference between the African slaves and the Trail of Tears slaves today, broken down to you so you can contrast simply. And the War of 1812 between the United States and Britain resulted in another era of significant migration. Roughly 2,000 black refugees seeking freedom arrived in Nova Scotia between 1813 and 1816. Many settled in Halifax and Dartmouth, including two large groups in Hammonds Plains and Preston. Others went to smaller communities around the province, such as Copaquid Road, 5 Mile Plains, Beachville, Porter's Lake, Fletcher's Lake, Prospect Road. You get the picture. The early 1900s saw the last historic group of black settlers arrive in Nova Scotia, as hundreds of Caribbean immigrants, known as the later arrival, came to Cape Breton to work in the steel mills. So we got folks from the Caribbeans coming up to Canada in the 1900s, showing you that folks was traveling abroad. They weren't just sitting up in their land doing nothing. They knew how to get around. So they working this steel mill people coming up in the world. So African Nova Scotians make up the largest racially visible group in Nova Scotia. They represent 44% of the racially visible population, which constitutes 2.3% of the total Nova Scotia population. Okay, so I don't know if you ready to call these people Africans, or if they getting denationalized, if they denationalized Moors, some type of people, because we know they ain't African because they wasn't in Africa. They was over here before all that African stuff became popular. You feel what I'm saying? And Scotia is an Egyptian queen. So they founded this town, Nova Scotia, and they running up out of here, you know, for some other reason, and they was black loyalists. So let's get up here and see what a black loyalist is before I get up out of here. What is a black loyalist? Okay. The aftermath of the American War of Independence brought the black loyalists to Nova Scotia. During the war, British authorities in America offered freedom to slaves of rebels, who escaped and made their way into British lands. So they be particular when they use these certain words, slaves of rebels. We got to make them answer to that. And they made their way into British lands. So many enslaved African Americans seized this opportunity to gain their freedom and came over to the British side. So instead of being slaves to the United States or whatever status they was going to have, they tried to ride with the British, hoping to get some type of clout like the Jamaicans got. You see how the Jamaicans riding with Britain. They is a Britain protectorate like Nigeria. So they got to do what Great Britain say, like other islands. So that's what Great Britain was trying to get these niggas to do. They was going to get their own little area in the United States, and the United States wasn't going. They like no Britain at all. So they must have knew Britain was the devil. And as you see, the black loyalists is Africans, and that's why the government called them African Americans, to make sure that y'all know these is the people who tried to side with Great Britain. Do you understand me? So they got names of these people, and by 1790, many black loyalists had become dissatisfied with the conditions in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. About 1,200 of them accepted the offer of the Sierra Leone Company, a British anti-slavery organization, to resettle in Sierra Leone. On the Atlantic coast of West Africa, approximately 1,000 black loyalists from Nova Scotia left. Most came from Burketown, Shelby County, Preston and vicinity, Digby and Annapolis. Nearly every black resident of Preston and Brindleytown left. The immigrants sailed from Halifax for Sierra Leone on 15 January 1792. Among them were community leaders such as David George Shelburne, Boston King, and Joseph Leonard. So all these people went to Africa to build up Sierra Leone. And the story continues. A long story at that. A long list of records that you can go over if you got the slavery spirit. If you have the emotional, sad sorrow story, bleeding your heart, wanting to shed tears, here's some sources for you to go back 150, 200 years so you can see what happened to your people. So these are the descendants of the African slaves who left the Sierra Leone. Now the people who didn't leave, because these are obviously the ones that escaped, my people. So the ones who didn't escape obviously are African Americans right now in the cities, living in the cities. And the ones who didn't want to take on white culture in the South and in these other black little towns, Negro towns, Indian town, Moor towns, was started to get bombed. And the riots, they had the race riots, the lynchings, they were getting attacked with Jim Crow. They just attacking the indigenous people. So this whole video basically exposed the fact that majority of these people is indigenous, no matter what they call them. They can call them what they want to call them, but they indigenous. And we have some African. Obviously, these people are Africans because they agreeing to go into Africa, and they steady taking these jobs from Great Britain and accepting oaths from Great Britain. So at this point, they have to be African because they keep on letting these people call them African. You know what I'm saying? So we got to get on top of this. And the division in the South that led to the war, to the 1812 war, is what ultimately led to the Indian Removal Act. So the Creek is the Trail of Tears people. Okay, so we have the Creek and the Moors, Muslims, Cherokee, Seminole. In the South. And they believe, and they don't want to take on Christianity. And we have niggas who stayed in America, and they are Christians. They are the number one Christians in America. Negroes are the most Christianized people on earth down there, next to the Africans. So the people who agreed to stay agreed to become Christians, and they agreed to be subjects. So that's why I'm telling you, Aboriginal under Dane Calloway is nothing but Christians. That's why they minds is, we ain't no Moors, we ain't no Muslim, because that's how Christians is. They want to be Aboriginals, but they want to keep eating pork. And it ain't going to be easy like that. They want to bring the GMO. They want to be vessels of negative, devil behavior, demonic behavior, and want to come over to the spirit realm with that. America is about the spirit and the great spirit. It ain't got nothing to do with all of that culture that they have taken on from the Europeans. And that's why they are very controversial when it comes to, this Aboriginal movement, because Ab means away from. I'm not saying y'all away from original, but y'all are away from civilization. You are away from civilization. You are away from your fathers and your mothers. Abbeys. Okay. So, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here in this video, because this is all information based. What we need to do is, when you scrolling through my videos, no matter what mood I'm in or how I am presenting the video, is take heed to the information in it. What I'm giving you. And in this particular video, I am discerning the colored people. I am discerning the Trail of Tears, the Freeman towns, the Africans. It is a difference. Just so happens, since most of us are indigenous and they've been kicking the Africans out with the Britain, they trying to say we Africans too. But if you don't speak up for your story, your story is going to be hidden. And now your story is being brought back to the light. And what you need to do is put in an effort to help and stop being a spectator. Start helping with this information. And I'm going to keep trying to reach out. And once again, I want to thank you for subscribing and liking and having the patience, to listen and accept this information so we'll know about America and who built up America. And this right here is going in my next video about who built up America. But because I know about the Trail of Tears and, certain families just started certain towns based on their religious beliefs. So we was all fighting and working in coal mines and steel mills. But, some of us might believe in Yuda or Ahaya. Some of us might believe in Allah. Some of us might didn't believe in no God. Some of us was alcoholics and drug addicts. And a lot of women was prostitutes. There was a lot going on. We can't judge nobody. I can't judge one of my people for being a prostitute, just like I can't judge one of my people for being a Muslim. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know why y'all would accept homosexuality and prostitutes and drug addicts, but y'all won't accept Muslims and Moors. It sounds like hate. And it sounds like y'all scared of Islam because we don't tolerate eating pork and bad food and fornicating and doing perverted things. So, but what I'm going to do is make sure you understand the difference between the Trail of Tears and the Africans, no matter what our beliefs is as copper-colored indigenous Americans. Whether you did take on Hebrew, Israelite literature, or Christianity, pagan religion, and Islam, pure out Islam, or the distorted versions. No matter what you took on, where your journey was at, we at the point of being indigenous, and we have some unity in that. So, this is the end of this video, and let me break this down for you. Okay. Indigenous Americans left the South for the Promised Land of the West in ever-increasing numbers after the Civil War. So the Promised Land was in the West. So we got some people getting some Promised Land in the West where it was off limit to the settlers and the colonists. And we have some people going back to Africa, to Sierra Leone and Nova Scotia. So if they was part of what was agreed to us, they would have came to the Promised Land with us. You understand what I'm saying? They wouldn't have went over to no Africa with no Great Britain because we got the Promised Land because we did what's right. We stayed true to our nationality, which was, family and clans of America and not no families of no Africa. So they're going to do their best to call us African Americans. And if we don't hold them to that and make them stop, they're going to keep doing it. So racial violence and intolerance prompted this vast migration from states such as Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, Texas, and Arkansas. Right where the dang on Louisiana Purchase is at. And this whole area is the Louisiana Purchase. And now they're going to give us the Promised Land in Oklahoma. So we have a list of towns. So let me go ahead and read the towns just so you can get a view, of what we did and let them basically explain it. So we have in 1881, we have in Kansas 12 agricultural colonies. Nicodemus, Hodgman, Morton City, Dunlap, Kansas City area colony Parsons, Waubonsee, Summit Township, Topeka area colony, Burlington Coat Factory probably was something we came up with, Little Coney, and the Daniel Votal colony. Another settlement, the Singleton colony, seems to have never really been a viable community. Many of the other colonies lasted only a few years. The town of Nicodemus, on the other hand, founded a few years before the large exodus, prospered into the 20th century. Americans also established colonies in Nebraska, including the town of DeWitt. They migrated to western New Mexico too, created settlements such as Blackdom and Dora. Oliver Toussaint Jackson established the settlement of Deerfield, Colorado in 1910. Okay, so we is all up in our homeland because during the 50-year period following the end of the Civil War, Americans built more than 50 identifiable communities in Oklahoma. Some sprouted quickly and vanished, others still survived, achieving freedom after the Civil War. Former Cherokees, Creek Seminoles, Chickasaws, and Choctaws also formed towns in Indian territory. So it was Indian territory in Oklahoma, and we out here deep. And you better believe that them fake-ass Indians don't like that. They want to call us some Africans, too. We is being hated on worldwide. And I don't know why everybody hating on us and don't want us to claim this indigenous, birthright in America. No matter how you identify as, your ethnicity. Your ethnicity might be whatever you want to call. But we all have a common thing on this trail of tears. Getting booted off our lands and getting robbed and beat up. So, this is something we have to come together on. We have lost a lot up on the Mississippi. We have lost a lot in Chicago. And Atlanta is getting attacked right now with the HIV and the thug rap culture. So you can see we is under attack. And instead of listening to these preachers up in these churches and these pimp Muslims like Farrakhan and them, and the rest of these YouTube cats trying to get rich, we got some claiming to do and some defending to do. And it's about that time since we have the spokesmanship for that. And the council and the people that is ready to put in work. This is the time to claim this right now because, regardless of they saying some African Americans, we know better than that. And that's why you got the Diane Callaways and the other indigenous groups out here, putting it on notice that we aboriginal. We have the trust. We have to get all the ownership rights and the inheritance back. Land to land, acre for acre. And we can unite from that. And that's why they broke us up, to keep us from uniting. And, ending the U.S. tyranny and ownership and authoritarian rule over us. Knowing that one nation cannot rule over another nation. And as long as they have you black, Negro, colored, and African American, they can be your authority because that is not a nation. And we're going to do another video based on nationality because the leaders of the Aboriginal said that, when they ask you what's your nationality, tell them that, it ain't important to some, he said. And I'm going to show you why it is important. Because if you don't have a respectable nationality with free national standards, you're not going to get recognized as somebody that's intelligent. It's going to be like you a savage. Or if you live into yourself, when it comes to industry and corporation and trade and commerce, you're not going to be recognized. You understand what I'm saying? Because you unidentifiable. Don't nobody know who you is. You don't have a nationality. You identify as whatever you identify as. You have your own beliefs, but I guarantee you ain't got no land and no resources. So you can be unidentifiable all you want without no land or resources. And let's see how they gonna deal with you from there. But that's another video. So, we know who the Trail of Tears is. We know who built up these towns. We know this is the Central State Lunatic Asylum for the Colored Insane for not obeying Jim Crow laws. So the Africans, they got up out of here quick. They wasn't going. They like, if you don't want to obey Jim Crow, get on up out of here. And the Africans got up out of here quick. So it's time to bring somebody to international court. It's time to do something. It's time to do something more than play games on the YouTube. It's time to do something more than playing games on YouTube. Because we got the facts. We got books, printouts on Negro institutions. I have so much information on Moorish. But I'm not going to be putting Moorish information up here. Anything Islamic and any other major videos breaking down who the Indians is and the global aspect of their cultures until people, open up their minds and start seeing instead of start, discriminating and being prejudiced and assuming they know everything. You know what I'm saying? So, imagine if India had like 1 million prisoners like America got 1 million prisoners. They can ship these people anywhere they want across the planet. Just like they do niggas today, offering them jobs. So you don't know who is who or what is what. All you doing is running your mouth. You know what I'm saying? All you doing is running your mouth thinking you know what's going on. Because I could take, for instance, the Yamasee, right? Result of 1597. Yamasee Revolt of 1597. And the destruction of the Georgian missions. I can just imagine after they did get their independence, who they allowed in their borders after that. What company? Who did they allow to visit them? Who do they have alliance with? You have to find out these things about the Yamasee. You cannot tell the Yamasee who they can have in their land at this point, as long as they don't violate international law for weapons of mass destruction and human trafficking laws. As long as they don't do that, you can't tell them who they can have in their land. So, people like this in their area, is getting victimized to this day. This is somebody who was a victim of the government experiments. Vertus Wilborn Hardiman was a victim of the radiation experiments in the U.S. government military, and they didn't even really pay him. So you can see the curly hair, and he had a tumor on his head. Felt like I should show that, So this is what's going on with the niggas in the South. They just doing them any kind of way. And that's why it's time to speak up. Because, nobody gave a damn when they was feeding the children to alligator bait and laughing about it. But when little Lane Graves got his ass ate up at Disney World, everybody was all in disarray because karma was served. You know what I'm saying? Little Lane Graves got his little ass ate the fuck up. But nobody's trying to help us, get back what we got coming for when they was down here brutalizing our people. So I end this video. Like, I'm probably going to end this video for now, the rest of these videos, because that's what this is all about. Getting from up out of that Roman yoke. Getting told what to do, getting pulled up about some damn police, having to pay this, having to pay that, health concerns, war concerns, gotta pay your rent on your own land, can't build your own house. Man, that's too much going on. Can't go into the woods. That's not freedom. I'm not with it. So I got to do more better. I got to do more better for me and my people. And as you can see, the descendants of the slaves and the descendants of the Trail of Tears is not the same people. They is not the same people. And pretty much you get the picture. And calling all Negroes. We got some researching to do. And I end this video. And it'll probably be a follow-up on this Descendants of Slaves and Descendants of Trail of Tears. But hopefully you got a quick glimpse of the difference. Because I don't have to spend hours on this shit unless I get some more stories that I feel like I should tell you about some Descendants of Slaves and then Descendants of Trail of Tears. If I do get some more information, I will keep you up to date. But as of right now, that's all I got. And once again, thanks for tuning in to this new age type of way to relay information to the masses. Not that old Rudy Pooty fake, no soul, no glow, news anchor journalism that you used to. This is the real deal. Keep in touch. Holla back.